Hi, everybody, and welcome to Are Old Movies Good, the podcast where we watch an old movie and decide whether or not it is good. I'm your host, Ben Lewis, and I'm here with Eric Lane and Kevin Chang.
Hello.
You guys want to say hi?
What's up, guys? AKA Rick Blaine for this podcast. I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. Gonna assume that name here.
And I'm Ilsa, I guess?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, the sexual tension is just really permeating the room. Today we'll be talking about the 1942 MGM classic, Casablanca. Now, before we go any further, I want to warn everybody we will talk about every part of this movie, so if you'd rather forego spoilers, get out of here while you still can. To refresh the memory of those who've seen the film or give an idea of what the movie's about to those who haven't, this was released in 1942 and stars Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. Casablanca takes us to Morocco circa December 1941, just before the bombing of Pearl Harbor. This was a French territory at the time, and the political situation is further muddied by the fact that Nazi Germany is occupying the northern half of France. French are presumably in charge, and the politically nebulous situation in Casablanca has drawn refugees there in the hopes of catching a chartered flight to Spain and from there, America. As is often the case where there is desperation, there is exploitation. Getting the appropriate documents comes with a high price tag, and those without the cash or the ass to get themselves out find themselves stuck in Casablanca. Most also find themselves a Rick's Cafe American. So is Casablanca good? As the host, I'm going to exercise the podcast version of the right of prima noctis and answer first. Casablanca is not good. Casablanca is great.
So, did you say trading cash or ass? Was part of the introduction for this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's literally what happens in the movie.
Okay.
Like, either they trade ass or cash
I just want to make sure that
to get exit visas.
because it's not clear in the movie. I mean,
It's not?
It's not 100% clear that they're trading ass.
All right. I don't know if this is going into the podcast, but I want everybody to know Eric came to us on a work release program. We're trying to get him back into the community. To be a little patient, okay?
That's shocking. Did you watch the
I
movie?
didn't watch the entire movie. So, all right. So, just to start out, I just want to say before we jump into this podcast, is Our Old Movie's Good. I just want to say I did like the movie. I liked it a lot. I thought it was good. I liked a lot of things about it. I just don't think it's perfect. And the idea that this movie is somehow untouchable, it's the greatest thing ever made, third or first, we'll go through the numbers, best movie ever made. That part doesn't make sense to me. I can't comprehend that. I don't get it. Just want to throw that out there.
No movie is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. It's not perfect. There's not such a thing as a perfect movie. It's not above reproach. You can criticize it. It's not flawless, but it is
But there's
so
no
great.
bad scenes. There's no bad
There's
scenes.
bad scenes in this movie.
Tell me a bad scene.
The opening scene when you see Rick's bar. So I think we should go through the movie. We'll go through it piece by piece. But that scene is useless to the film. It sets the scene a little bit of what his bar is like and the random characters and these people here. But at that point in the movie, you don't know what's happening. You don't know who these people are. And it doesn't even matter to the film later on.
That's the whole point of the scene, is to establish that.
And it creates an atmosphere of desperation. I can feel the heat and the exploitation and the desperation all seeping through on the screen. This is the climate that the movie's going to take place in. I feel it right from the get-go, and it's exciting. It's visually interesting.
Are you talking about the scene where he's talking to Louis and he's getting money out of the safe?
No, it's like 5 minutes in the movie after the guy gets shot in the fakest death scene I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, I know this movie's old, but that's terrible, right?
The guy that doesn't have the papers
He
and
gets
runs
shot
away.
in the back, no blood, little cap, and he falls over dead. That's bad.
Yeah, and then you see that he has French freedom papers.
Okay.
He's part of the resistance.
Well, explaining why he dies, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Although tracking the historical, you seriously need to Wikipedia what's happening in the world to understand the significance of all this. That it's Morocco's French occupied, but it's unoccupied by the Nazis, even though the Nazis are there. All of that stuff, you need to know it to understand the relationship here. What these papers are, what the papers matter. All of that.
You really don't. The paper is garbage, and it doesn't even make any sense.
Either
they're signed. I actually looked it up. The whole idea of
exactly. I agree with you, Eric. The point is the papers don't matter. They're what Roger Ebert would call a MacGuffin. It's irrelevant. It's the thing the characters need. The specifics of it are just so irrelevant to the plot. We just know people want to get out of Casablanca and get away from the Nazis, and these papers will get them there, and we know somebody killed these Nazis, and they're trying to capture these
Yeah,
people.
it doesn't make any sense, but those papers are beyond reproach, so that's all you need to know. Once you get those
That's it.
papers, you can just
You
fly
don't need
out.
to understand anything about who was occupying where, when. I think that's interesting, and this film was so good it made me want to learn that stuff, but no, it's not necessary.
Okay. Well, I think it's in the beginning of the movie. It's hard to track that. All I'm saying is it's a little difficult to track all those things. Now, you guys are the smartest people in the world. I'm sitting here with
Agreed.
I don't know.
That's the smartest thing you've ever said, Eric.
introduced-
The goddamn smartest thing you've ever
When we
said.
introduced ourselves, I don't know if you mentioned that you guys are Siskel and Ebert, so I think maybe we should go back and re-record that so everybody's aware that I'm sitting here with the dead Siskel or Ebert, whichever one's actually dead, and then the other guy. Aren't they both dead?
Both
Okay,
dead, yeah.
So yeah.
I don't think I ever truly died. My consciousness was transferred into Ben Lewis's body. So Ben Lewis is the one that really died. Just so we know.
Okay. Well, so
Well, the original opening scene is that plane, and it's a really stupid looking
God,
plane.
that's
It's like
bad.
cardboard, and it's flying at a
little
weird
toy.
angle, and then it just kind of lands all funny, and then finally they get to an establishment spot. It's probably an airport in LA, and that's it, right? So that scene is kind of wonky with the plane that's kind of like hanging on a string, and it goes by, and everyone's looking at it, even though they're even looking at a wrong angle. If they're actually looking at the plane, it wouldn't have been there. So yeah, that is kind of weird, but I think that's a limitation of movie making at the time. It wasn't perfect. They couldn't actually shoot a plane because, for one, it was beginning of wartime, so they couldn't just fly planes around and have that going on. But
so wait, so you guys both think this is one of the greatest movies ever made, right? Is that correct?
yeah,
Here's what I'll say. I'll give you a claim, Eric. I think Casablanca is the best film from classic Hollywood, basically pre-1950. I'll say that. I'm going to go out to bat on that one.
Okay. And you, Mr. Elsa?
Yeah, I would say it's top 5 film.
Okay. I just don't get it.
Eric is just angry and incredulous
I don't
and
get it.
perturbed.
I don't understand. You didn't find it boring at all.
I never found it boring.
I was not bored for 1 second of the movie. Yeah, there's some things that are dumb. Why would the Nazis have a dossier on Rick Blaine? Because he fought in the Spanish Civil War. It doesn't make any sense.
Why did the Nazis just arrest Victor Laszlo?
Why did
Absolutely.
they're there? He just escaped a concentration camp. He's
Yeah.
been hiding and escaping Nazi Germany, and they just have him, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you come to our office and
Yeah,
we'll talk,
I mean-
we'll chat for a little bit."
Theoretically, it was because they wanted to honor unoccupied
Did Nazis
France.
really give a shit about that?
No, they wouldn't have given a shit.
And no, they wouldn't have gave a shit about that.
They would have just arrested or shot him or whatever they wanted to do. Agreed.
So okay, so movie starts. We see him round up the usual suspects, right? That's a cool line. That's one of the classic lines from this movie, which I think is important to mention. There's a lot of really classic lines. So then you see the guys getting shot, which is just awfully funny how stupid that looked. And then we get to the
Well, maybe he just sprained his lower back.
could be, yeah. I mean, with a little dart in the back, and he just passed out for a little bit. I don't know. There's no
I
blood.
mean, this is a general problem with old movies. They don't
Yes.
have good makeup
It looks
effects.
bad. It looks bad.
But I think most death effects look pretty bad,
Sure.
So okay, I can see
So
the
now, then we
guy's
get
dead.
to, what
You
is
didn't
it,
do
Rick's-
much work to convince me, but whatever. I'll accept that and move on.
So we get to Rick's Cafe, right? Or Rick's Bar, what's it called?
Rick's Café
Oh,
American.
that's right. Okay. And then it's just this random slew of characters who you don't know who they are, you don't know what they're doing. They're just talking about getting papers and gambling.
It sets the scene.
like
They're
that- you like
they're
the way that-
desperate.
that
They're desperate. They're
rolls
trying to
through
sell
there.
their diamonds,
Right.
and they're like, we don't even care about diamonds.
Diamonds, we've got so many diamonds, this isn't going to do anything. Okay.
And if I knew how much francs were, I'd probably be shocked at how little the diamonds are being sold for. Is the whole setup.
So these are people that have left various parts of Europe, right?
Yeah.
And they're
You
hiding.
got it.
Their sole purpose of coming to Morocco is
Is
try-
to go to Lisbon, which is in Portugal, and then Portugal fly.
Right, but they're doing that to get to America. All of
Yes.
those steps they
That's
follow. I mean, the globe,
Yeah.
spinning globe, which I thought actually looked pretty cool. The
If
very
you believe the Earth is round, yeah. Okay.
yeah. I guess you have to assume that. I thought it looked cool.
I don't think we really know, guys.
You got the
So
standard
just,
40s
I don't want any
voice
controversy.
guy, you know,
Yeah.
he's in every
Casablanca.
Yeah. And then you see Rick, right? You see they don't show his face at first, which I thought was kind of stupid.
Well, they show him playing chess,
by
which is kind of
himself.
cool.
Who's cooler than that? That plays chess by themselves. And then
People are really smart and good in strategy and stuff.
Well, see, he runs a den of gambling, right? So maybe he knows that the odds are tilted against them, and so he doesn't like games of chance. He's playing a game of chess.
Yeah, because it wouldn't make sense to gamble in your own bar, right? That would be a little.
Yeah, that would
stupid.
make sense.
And he also says he doesn't drink, although we see him drink the entire movie. So I don't know what that means.
He doesn't drink with other people. He
Oh,
drinks
just by
alone.
himself
He's
and
bitter
alone.
and alone.
Yeah. Which you don't know until about half an hour later. Why he's so whatever. But that doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine with his
So
character.
the establishing shot, you first see his signature, and then it pans up to see his face, and that is a great reveal.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I didn't mind that scene. I
Okay,
thought
all right.
it worked. And then you got the bartender guy coming over talking to him, right? Or is that when Louis is first introduced? Isn't he right there chatting with him?
No, the first person that approaches him is Peter Lorre, the guy that killed the Nazis.
Ungarte.
Yeah, to
Got the papers.
papers.
I don't know. It didn't say that he killed them,
Music.
so I guess I didn't get that because it wasn't so explicit.
Yeah, there was a lot of ambiguity there.
I mean, do we know that he killed them? Maybe he bought them from him, and then they just like got hit by a bus. They don't actually say. So we can't be clear on that.
True. That is true.
Yeah,
good
so
point.
I mean,
Very
clearly he killed those two people, and he wants to impress Rick with that information. And he gives Rick the two
Rick is
letters.
cool as a cucumber. Just nonchalantly puts it in
You've seen it all.
piano.
Yep.
Super badass character. I like Rick's character. I mean, he's what the original anti-hero kind of. I don't know. I don't know of any other movie where that.
I would be dubious to say the original anti-hero when there's been, thousands
He's the
of
most
movies.
classic one, though.
But the most well-known. He might have
I
popped
mean, how many times has that character been redone in other movies in like a different way? I mean, we talk like I reference Han Solo. I think is basically Rick Blaine. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons between Star Wars
Sure.
and this.
So you're saying he's one of the greatest cinematic characters of all time?
I do have to
He's
ask you a
iconic.
question, Eric.
Yes.
So, in Mos Eisley's cantina in New Hope, we see a bunch of aliens and we don't know what they're doing. Are you just pissed off?
But
Every
imagine
second
if
you
we
see that,
spent
like,
half
what
an
are those
hour-
aliens doing? They're
Imagine
just
if-
sitting there.
if
We don't know who
we
they
spent
are.
5 minutes
Fuck those
with
aliens.
each alien. We zoomed in on the little.
Stop
stupid blue
wasting time
alien's
with the
face,
aliens.
And we haven't talked about
Don't care.
stupid alien stuff. And you're like, I don't care
Irrelevant.
these people. That cantina scene is 30 seconds of just like, well, look at all these people, and then let's get to what's happening. But in this movie, we spend half an hour at each
We do not
person's
spend
table.
half an hour.
We go
He
to
is
table
literally
by
wrong.
table by table by table by table and seeing their stupid story that doesn't matter for the movie. It's a waste of time and it's boring. It's one of the reasons why this movie's kind of boring.
I wasn't bored. I thought that was visually exciting and interesting. It's a really good dolly shot. They're weaving in and out. We're getting just like a snippet of each conversation. Atmosphere is established. This is the climate. This is what's going on. This is the tensions building up. This is what's going on. It's a powder keg.
Okay. All right.
But you were bored by it. That's fair enough.
So the guy tries to give Rick gives Rick the
He
paper,
gives it.
and then Rick walks out and he hears the song playing. Right? Isn't that why he leaves the
No.
other place?
Not yet.
Not at all. He talks to Louis before Ilsa comes in. So he puts the papers in Sam's piano. He deals with the guy that got 20,000 francs.
Oh yeah,
the
'cause he goes
casino-
outside. Yeah.
Yeah, the gambling's
That's right.
rigged, so the house cheats to make sure nobody wins. But this guy screws up. We see the dealer apologizing because he knows he screwed up. And he's got Louis, and they walk together and they have a nice little conversation where we understand that both of these guys just care about money and themselves. And we see why they
Louis and Rick, yeah.
But there's a little subtle hint where Louis like, he calls him not so cynical. He's got a heart or something. I can't remember the specifics that he talks
Yeah,
about.
Yeah,
But,
he,
like
re-
the little
he
inkling
reads
that
Rick correctly.
Rick's not necessarily the rough like exterior, which I think is kind of cool. There's more
he
to
gets
his
it.
character than just this.
Yeah, they know each other really well.
It's the difference of like Nick Cage is playing this guy versus Humphrey Bogart, where there's or I guess if it's like a Nick Cage movie, it's not written in a way where there's more dynamics to his character. But
Ambiguity?
do you think Bogart's a good actor? Just basic.
No, and I don't care, and it doesn't matter.
I think he's pretty bad in this movie. Like, His acting, I think, is pretty poor. His chemistry with Elsa, which we'll get to, I guess, when we get through more of the movie, but
I thought his chemistry was amazing, and you can tell that he had good chemistry because Ilsa and Victor Laszlo's character had no chemistry. He was a bored stiff, and she was not into him at all.
yeah, that's
But
true.
then what do you think about her and Rick?
So I did some research. So the first thing they shot in this movie, because they rushed it to try to get it filmed for after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, right? So they tried to make this movie. So the first scene they film is the flashback to Paris.
In Paris,
That's the
yeah.
first time they'd known each other.
Side note, this is one of the rare movies that was shot entirely in sequence. This little aside. Every scene that happens in the movie was shot in a row. So
Are you
all
being
hap-
facetious?
So, but
No,
the
I'm not being
flashback, you're
facetious.
saying, because it's like technically the first thing, you know.
And then everything that
sequentially.
happens we see filmed in order, which is very rare for a movie to be filmed in order. So just a stupid
Wait.
little
Oh,
fact.
that's good.
So
Good
the
fact.
flashback was filmed first, and then
we are introduced to that opening
plane
shot
thing.
at Rick's
Okay.
bar, the plane and Rick's bar. We meet Rick.
okay.
All
So
this happens.
the airport scene is the last scene that they filmed.
See, I think
Right,
the flashback scene would be a great way to start the movie. Like, you start the movie in Paris.
I disagree, and I love how little
You
time they spent in Paris. I'm
Yeah,
so glad
and
they
there's a
spent
lot of
not even
furtive
5 minutes.
glances. You can tell right when Ilsa walks in the bar, Sam sees her, and Sam reacts like, "Oh my
And
God!"
then she calls
this
him
and that.
boy. You mean that part?
Okay, we're going to add a little qualifier here because she asks the server to say, "Who's that boy playing the piano?" I
who's
think I
that
recognize.
boy playing piano?
And Eric's uncomfortable with the racial connotation.
Yeah,
Doesn't
that's
it?
And it
Well-
generally makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't make you uncomfortable. I mean,
Little.
maybe that's how people talk back then, and maybe it's historically accurate, but it's just a film it does not age well. That's terrible to think.
No,
you
that's
call
true,
the boy
but
playing piano because he's the only African American in the whole place. That's bad. Okay, side point, I guess. But it shows how old this movie is, where that's like okay to say something like that. You would never say something like that now, because it's terrible. Would you just call him a boy? And the fact that they order him around, play it again, play a damn song, Sam. I don't like that's bad. That's just bad dynamics.
I thought she was pleading with him more than I know.
Yeah, it made me uncomfortable. The way they bossed him around. She tells the boy to play the song again, and she basically tells him to play the song, and I didn't like the whole thing. I didn't like the whole vibe. I didn't like it.
I read her more as pleading, more of a play it again, Sam. Please,
So,
time goes
okay,
by.
segregation.
Like that's how I read that scene.
1940.
Say it, boy.
Gee, it's the children of the corn, man.
You do what I say. That's not my take.
Segregation's in full force. So he's an American, right? Sam is. He's not from Morocco or from Casablanca, right? Because he knew.
I view him as American. Do you?
Yes, he didn't
Oh,
have
okay.
an accent, or he had an American accent, and he's Bogart's friend. So we don't know much about his story except he carries Humphrey Bogart's bags. We know that, and he plays
gets
the
a
piano.
10%
Which
share
we
of the
don't know until
profit,
the very end of the movie, but
but you still learn it.
okay.
It's still a fact of the
So
movie.
he's not a slave. You've established that he's actually paid, which is I guess is a good thing because he could have just been a slave. That
I
was
think
normal.
Rick's Cafe American is raking in the dough, by the way. So 10% of the profits would probably be a nice chunk of
he
change.
can't even spend all that money. He claims.
Okay. But so he falls into Paris, carries his bags, tells him to go. There's the whole stuff with Elsa. He leaves and he falls into Morocco. I just didn't like the whole vibe. I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about Sam and.
Sam's the MVP of this movie. Sam and Louis, I think, are the best characters in this movie.
What does Sam do that makes you think he's
just
the
great.
MVP?
Great piano. He's great at faking like he can play piano because he really.
So he's just really good at fake piano playing.
Yeah.
That's what makes him the MVP.
He had a lot of furtive glances. He looked side to side. He made a face when Elsa walks in the bar. He's sad for Rick.
Yeah. When he goes, let's go get drunk. Let's go, forget about her.
He tries to distract him.
Yeah, I
right?
love that. That's great stuff.
Stuff a friend might do and his buddies, a little lovelorn, you think?
Or your, guy, your boss. He calls him boss constantly. Did you catch that? That
I
made me
didn't. I missed
uncomfortable.
that.
He does not call him Rick once in the movie. He just calls him boss. The whole time. That's his term for Rick is boss. That makes me uncomfortable.
Well, I don't believe you when he says he never calls him Rick once. I bet it probably happens once.
Okay.
But
Well, all right. Mostly he calls him boss. That made me just okay. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you
He
didn't.
does work for him at the bar.
Okay, yeah. Okay, maybe you guys fine.
Rick is the business owner.
Sure.
You know, he's shouldering most of the risk.
We can move on from this point. It may be uncomfortable. Maybe it did for you guys. I think it's
I do think it's a fair point. It's a relationship that would be better served if it was explored. Why they're such good friends, what their history is.
So
I agree with you on that one.
So there was what about the bartender? He was always like, "I love you."
The
I love
Russian?
you. Yeah, Sasha. Yeah, I love you.
It's really good.
he acted like an employee.
Sure, and he was an employee, but Rick cared about him.
I don't know, he gave Rick a nice little back pat after he helped that couple out. You know, he's like, "Oh, you did great, boss," and
Yeah,
gives him
I
the
like
hug.
that guy. He was
Love
good.
you, boss.
He was good. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't mind that character. But okay, so play it again, Sam. Or as time goes by, I don't know if you guys want to listen to it, but you know, we got the scene. He plays the song, and then Rick walks through, right? And
Yeah,
tells her.
he
Well,
can't.
he hears it and he's like, "What the hell's
Right,
going on?
like,
I
what
didn't
the
hear
hell?
that
I
goddamn
told you not
song.
to play that song.
God damn it, Sam! I told you not to play that
song.
song.
I hate that song.
Yeah, it made me. This whole thing made me uncomfortable. The way he was yelling at me.
Should we talk about projection right now? Is that a concept we should talk about right in this moment?
All right, so
I feel like maybe we should. What that means.
so then he
Oh.
sees Elsa, and gets all weird. We still don't know why, which I think is okay for the movie. I mean, you don't need to know. Clearly, there's history there. Although her and Sam's interaction seemed like, again, that she was just some employee that she didn't spend time with him. I think if this movie's made now, there'd be this whole thing about the three of them having like a friendship, and she would have been his friend.
Like
Yeah,
a threesome?
a gangbang?
Interracial.
Like
Those
a
are the,
wild fling in Paris?
those
Just
are the 3 minutes.
messed up on wine and exploring themselves?
No, I just think there would be a more developed history between the three of them because they were in Paris together. Like Sam is Humphrey Bogart's friend, and there's
The fact that there's a song that Sam plays and that she loves so much and that it resonates with him, that doesn't establish enough to you? There needs to be more? I thought that was pretty economy of storytelling. It was this beautiful song they both were attached to. Obviously, it was the version that Sam played that they liked so much.
yeah. I didn't have that huge of a problem. I just think that could have been a larger source of like dialogue and material for the movie is their relationship, her and Sam's relationship, because it's basically this sort of passing like you knew this guy.
So wait. So the greatest love story of all time.
Which is crap that you think is the greatest love story of all time.
You want
What is the greatest love story?
I don't know. It's definitely not this movie though. All right. Sorry. Finish your point.
okay? So great love story. You wanted more with this ancillary piano player. You wanted that fleshed out.
He's one of the 3 or 4 biggest characters of this movie. You got Bogart, you got Elsa, and you got Louis and
Julie
Sam,
Wilson, yeah.
and Victor. Those are like the 5 main characters of this movie.
Sure, but are you asking for more Victor, Ilsa, as well? I mean,
Maybe, I don't know. It seemed like we spent so much time in this, like walking through the bar, all these random people, and you got this other couple and all this other stuff, and we just didn't get enough of like what this movie is about, which is about this relationship and about Sam and all that. I mean, just the whole thing. It felt underdeveloped.
well, Sam was there in the flashback. He's their friend,
Carrying his
and
bags.
he's their friend
And
together.
they're confident.
And they talk about things like the occupation in the flashback scene, and he's like, "Oh, this will make it feel better."
Sure.
So they're all commiserating. They don't like leave him out of things, but they also don't bring him to the bedroom. They're spent most of their time probably, in the bone zone with Ilsa and Rick.
Maybe that's what I would just wanted more. I wanted more of the bone zone. Is what I think was missing from this movie. Not enough boning.
Well, she was married at the time. She didn't know that she was still married at the time, but I don't think the censors would have allowed much bone zoning.
So
Yeah, you couldn't really show any bone zoning in 1942.
Especially if they weren't married.
So when I was watching the movie, and again, maybe I didn't catch it all, and I have only seen this movie one time because I've seen it multiple times.
You have 4 pages of notes,
It seemed like she was telling. when eventually we can skip ahead, I don't know, we don't need to go like the whole movie. But when she tells Rick eventually that like, hey, I'm married or I was married, she talks about Victor being in a concentration camp. And so immediately I'm like, cheating on your spouse while he's in a concentration camp seems like the worst level of cheating.
Well, they established with the French freedom fighter in the beginning when he shows them the ring, they go and talk, and they established the fact that they thought he had died 5 or 6 times. So no doubt she thought Victor Laszlo, her hero, had died. And so she was mourning that. But then she meets Rick. She was at a vulnerable place. Rick was there, strong as a rock, and they fell in love very hard in Paris.
And you bought that. You bought the scenes and the flashback scenes is like
they had great chemistry. It's well known that Ingrid Bergman was like 2 or 3 inches taller then, and then he had to sit on pillows and stand on boxes, but they had chemistry. They were in love. I buy that.
I mean, I think they were the weakest scenes in the film, but they're brief, and I can just accept. Okay, you guys had a wild and crazy fling in Paris. Got it.
Yeah.
Let's
so
move
you
on.
guys have stone hearts, and you don't.
Well, I found their relationship awkward because, one, he keeps calling her kid, which throws me off. You never call your wife, significant other, girlfriend, kid. That's just weird. And also the fact that he's like 15 years older than her, clearly. I mean, she's like 20 and he's got to be 40.
Well, Mike Pence calls his wife mother.
And is
that better?
Maybe. I don't know what's worse, kid or
What if your name is Jason Kidd?
Okay.
Is that okay to call your wife Kid?
That's
looking at you, kid.
But
that was actually an improvised line.
Yeah, and he says it 4 times in the movie. I counted.
Yeah, it's a great line.
It's not a great line when you say it over and over and over again. It's like, what if in Terminator, Schwarzenegger says, "I'll be back" 4 times in the movie. You'd be like, all right, you're overdoing it, buddy. Like, great line, it's your catchphrase, but you're saying it over and over again. That's too many times. He said it too many times in this movie. And calling her kid, again, is creepy. He's calling his girlfriend kid. I find that weird. It threw me off a little bit. So one thing I thought was great in the movie, one thing I really liked was...
He was looking at you, Doss. The the original scripted line was actually, let's make this into wee-wee. That was their toast. Let's turn this into wee-wee.
A wee-wee?
I'm kidding.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
You got to be careful, Kevin. He will believe it.
The original line.
Like, you could just tell him anything.
His toast is, let's turn this to wee-wee, broad.
Okay.
So maybe...
So I think that was a good line in consideration of the script.
Yeah, another fun fact, he was teaching Ingrid Bergman to play poker between takes, and that's when he started calling her kid.
Which is, perfectly normal thing to do. To another woman, call her kid. That's very normal.
Well, he is
perfectly normal.
He is a little bit older than her.
A little bit. He's like 25 years older than her.
Yeah, and that's...
Let's be clear here, modern movies are no better at this.
I don't know.
Tom Cruise
what about our president? What about our
decades
president? Look at our president. He's like 70-some years old, and Melania is 40? I don't know.
Yeah, you're creepy. You're right. You hit the nail on the head. Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of the many things I liked. I was super entertained by the movie, so it's not just that this is, but it's Rick's initial ambivalence about what's happening in the world reflects America's relative ambivalence about these horrible things happening. As he has his awakening, America's literally having its awakening after Pearl Harbor, and then
that's right.
Going to North
like
Africa.
a true American, he's got to get a gun and start shooting people, right? Like,
oh, come on. Let's not say that.
Oh, yeah. He shoots a Nazi. Oh, how horrible.
Okay, so, but you're right. At that moment, when he was drinking and he was having Sam play that song, making him play it, he does say, are they asleep in America?
They're asleep in America. They're
all
over.
Yeah, so that's symbolic. He doesn't care that it was daytime. He's just saying symbolically, all the Americans are asleep. Wake a sleeping giant.
Right, and there's even a reference to isolationism earlier by the rival bar owner, the Ferrari guy.
Oh yeah.
Who owns the Blue
Black
Parrot.
market
Like
guy.
isolation is a controversial policy or something like that. I totally butchered that, but something like that. So that's going on, and it's just super interesting. And literally, this movie gets released when the U.S. invades North Africa to try to get the French troops back on our side.
It's kind of a propaganda movie, right?
Oh, it very much is.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. It's probably the best propaganda movie from the World War II era.
So you mentioned the Victor character, right? Like, I think there's problems with that guy.
Yeah, he's a nothing burger. He has no personality. He's just nothing.
Yeah, he's like too good of a guy. He was just all about virtue and doing the right thing. He didn't care that Rick was in the bone zone with Ilsa. He was okay with that. He was like, yeah, all is fair in love and war. I get that you guys were boning.
Good.
Yeah.
It's like the area code or zip code thing. Concentration camp is okay. Fair game.
Wait, you're saying it's not cheating if they're in a concentration camp? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, that's what I said. But I think the love triangle here, which is what the movie is, the romantic part, which makes it kind of complicated, which I liked, wasn't done that well because there isn't a ton of drama between the three of them. At least I didn't catch it from the movie. Like you said, Victor doesn't seem to even give a shit that. Or you're with her. Like, why does he not care that there's this like awkwardness between the two of them until he asks like a lawyer, like he's like as a deposition, like, oh, you had intercourse with Rick, right? Oh, okay, all right. Well, I guess I thought you thought I was dead, and just doesn't even seem to care at all. There's no.
That's because he's such a good guy. He obviously cares for her. He would not leave the country if it was just one exit visa.
Yeah, he said he would.
Stay there.
No, he said he would. Is that the
She
line?
doesn't believe him. No one believes him. He was clearly just saying that to make her feel better, so that she'd leave and live, and he'd be killed by the Nazis. He would rather her live. He loves her that much.
I didn't think it came across in the performance.
What did you think? Did you think that Victor Laszlo would actually leave her?
No, I thought it was pretty clear she needed to come with him. That he ultimately wasn't going to leave her. He cared too much about her. But I don't think you and I disagree, Eric, about how important the love triangle is to the overall ending of the film. I think the film was ultimately about Rick's realization of what's going on in the world and making the hard choice that war is coming and it's time to act and time for selfish interest is done. It's time to go do the right thing and stop Nazis.
Okay.
Well, there's both sides. There's many sides to the whole Nazi thing.
There sure are. A real nuanced and complicated issue.
No,
we could talk about for hours. So we're going to maybe not talk about it because it's just going to take up too much time. But I mean, what I love about the movie is that Rick does not end up with Ilsa. I think that's one of the coolest things. Speaking from my very specific point of view,
spoiler alert.
I already gave the spoiler alert at the beginning, so I'm really going to spoil the ending of the film, even though we've been talking about it. He doesn't end up with Ilsa, and I think that's great. I mean, the problems of two people don't amount to hella beans when there's so much suffering going on. And anyway.
That's a great quote.
Yeah, it is a great quote. We've not really talked nearly enough about Louis Renault, and I just want to bring the discussion back to him.
Great character.
He's
great
fantastic. Character. He is the French captain in charge of the police in Casablanca, and he and Rick have a very nice relationship. Rick lets him run at roulette. And then
He's got great lines. Funny.
Yeah, some of the best. Some of my favorite lines. Well, Rick's got a gun pointed at his heart, and he says, "Oh, that's my least vulnerable spot." I mean, that's a great line. It's a great line. Oh, put it on my bill. We play this little game. They give me the bill. I tear it up. It's all good fun. That's great. It's great lines. So every single one. And he and Rick are partners for a while, and then they both make the choice at the end to, I presume, to go fight the Nazis in Morocco and help liberate the French troops. I don't know. But he's awesome.
Yeah,
nobody's disagreeing with me on that, so
no,
must be a brilliant point.
Louis he's the scene stealer of this
He's
movie.
the literal MVP of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, he is super entertaining.
Yeah.
He has not a single bad line in the entire movie.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And let's be clear, this guy is kind of a douchebag because he is extorting sex from women for exit visas, so let's not act like he's a perfectly good character either, but there's just a lot of morally gray people making the
Did you
correct
really
choice
get that out of the movie, though?
I did.
Was it when that woman asked for a visa in exchange for something? Was that moment that you figured that out, or?
Yeah, and she said she had done a bad thing. She didn't know if she could ever tell her husband about it. It was pretty clear that bad thing had been that she cheated on her husband to try to get them out of Casablanca.
Well, okay, so let's take a step back, because they did have to change this movie. We talked about this. They did have to change this movie to make it align with some of the laws that existed, right? So it couldn't be indecent.
Censorship, yeah.
There was
Yes, it had to pass the Hays Code. I mean, it was either all or nothing. You either pass the Hays Code or you couldn't release your movie. So there was a lot of shit you just could not do.
Specifically,
Full
this
stop.
stuff with Louis, they had to make it sort of nuanced enough so it wasn't like 100% clear that he was trading visas for sex.
Well, I think it's pretty smart how they did it, and I think it's still pretty clear. Given the limitations, I think it's about as obvious as you could make it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's clear now that that's what he was doing, and even, there's a scene where he's in his office, he sends the girl in, and all that stuff.
And he like spiffies himself
and
up.
then the scene.
Yeah, he throws down the paperwork he has to do. He's like, "Oh, send her right in."
The young couple that we see in the beginning of the movie looking at the plane, and then in the end, Rick helps the guy win the money on roulette.
So she doesn't have to keep
pouring
porking
herself out. Yeah, I mean that's that's pretty clear. And then Louis kind of pissed, like, hey, I guess I got to find a new girl. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But when you're in the middle of the movie, yeah.
Well, he also says, "I've got another blonde coming in tomorrow night.
Right.
Please don't help her get out because I like her."
Right? I mean that's an awful thing to do.
It is a very shitty thing to do.
It comes off not so terrible for his character.
Well, by the end, he makes the right choice, just like Rick. I mean, Rick's thinking about running off with a resistance leader's wife. That's not necessarily a nice thing to do.
Right, yeah. Nobody's great in this movie. I mean, they're not great people,
Right, he's not a
Except
traditional
for Victor.
hero.
Victor's the hero,
Right, it makes him boring and dull.
Yeah,
and
he's Captain America in this movie, right? Or Captain France, I guess.
I think he's from...
He's Czechoslovakia.
Okay. Yeah, he's not...
That doesn't roll off the...
Captain Czech?
Yeah.
Cash or check.
I like that. Famous lines from the movie. Have a favorite? You guys have a favorite line?
Well, the one that is the start of a beautiful friendship, that line is interesting because it was actually dubbed in 2 weeks after the scene was filmed. So they didn't even know how they were going to end the movie, and they ended on the classic line.
Which is way better than what they wanted to do. They wanted to show another scene with Louis and Humphrey Bogart getting ready to fight in North Africa.
So I love
But they couldn't get Claude Rains.
I love that line. Claude Rains is Louis, is that right?
Yeah, they couldn't get him for the shot. So they just
let's turn this into wee-wee.
Kevin is
You're gonna
drinking
make that
something
work,
and
right?
he's going to turn it into wee-wee.
So I like that scene. The only problem I had is it made no sense, right? The whole final scene, his plan, and we can, I don't know.
His plan makes perfect sense. I've been thinking about it.
His plan makes no sense.
Keep going.
Okay, so the whole.
So where are we at in the movie?
So towards the end of the movie, Elsa wants to run away with him, and Rick says, "You gotta, let's go to the airport," or what? I don't know what he tells her. He's like, "We'll run away together," right? He makes her think they're gonna leave together, but then he sets it up where he has Victor there, and then he has Louis come meet them there, right? He tells Louis, "Meet us here, and you'll be able to catch Victor. He'll be here, and the Nazis will love you." Right?
Yeah.
So then Louis gets there, the three of them are there, and he flips the script on and he pulls the gun on Louis, and that's where Louis says the hard thing, which I think is a great line. Right? And then he takes Louis and the three of them to the airport, right? So they all go together. I don't know how they fit in one car, but that's fine.
Wait, you don't know how, what is it?
Four
people fit in a car? Is that...
We're to like horse and buggies. I don't know.
I don't know if it's a clown car or what. I don't know, just like crammed them in there. Jeez, I mean, cars were all one-seaters in the 40s, right, guys?
Were they like sitting on top of each other? It's kind of weird.
All right, so they get to the airport.
4 seats. Whoever thought of 4 seats?
And then Rick flips the script on them and tells them to go. And so it tells, doesn't he tell her he's going to follow her or something? How does he convince her to go with Victor? He says something.
No, he says she's going to regret it if she doesn't leave.
Yeah, maybe not today,
but
maybe not
doesn't
tomorrow.
she think he's following them?
But soon and for the rest of your life.
Okay.
No, but he's saying he has to get out of there because of what he did. He just was that right after he killed the Nazi, or
No.
but he put a gun to the prefect, the French prefect, so he has to leave. He knows it.
Yeah, he made arrangements, right? He knew he was going to have to bail. He sold the bar. He said, "Give Sam 25% of the profits. I got to get out of there.
Right.
I'm going to get in trouble."
Okay, and then how does the Nazi get there? Because Louis calls him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the original plan was to have all of Claude Rains, Louis', police not follow him. He said, call off your goons and I'm going to set you up with, you're going to get a great bust of Victor Laszlo. Just send off your guys and I'll set you up perfectly. And then Claude Rains doesn't do that. He says he keeps having his soldiers around, so he says, call your soldiers, tell them off.
He calls the Nazi.
But then he calls secretly the Nazi. Rick doesn't realize it.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
He does it sneakily, so he gets him to the airport.
And the Nazi's all confused, like, why does he
Yeah.
want me at the airport? So he goes there, and then he finds out what's happening.
Right.
Okay. So point A is, why even involve Louis? Does he need Louis?
Victor Laszlo is in jail. He's arrested, Victor Laszlo.
When did he arrest Victor Laszlo?
Before he goes and makes that deal, Victor Laszlo is in the jail. He arrests Victor Laszlo at Rick's bar.
For what?
Nothing. Just
Oh,
for
that's
whatever.
when he's wrapping his arm for like 15
Yes.
minutes. He keeps wrapping
Yes.
it and unwrapping. It's a terrible scene where he's got a little cut in his
Yeah,
arm.
they clearly figured it out and adjusted the shot higher up above his
Yeah.
arms, so you could see the motion, but then you didn't have to look at the wrapping. It wasn't very good, but
Yeah.
he gets arrested. So to get him on the plane, Rick's got to get
What are you
him out of
doing?
jail.
I'm wrapping my arm.
He's got to get him out of jail and make sure nobody's able to stop them from getting on the plane.
Okay, so why doesn't he just tell Louis to come like an hour later?
So after the plane gets there, because Louis is not dumb.
He says come here at 7 o'clock or something like that, and then they're all there, and then he's like, oh, Louis is here, okay, and Victor's like, you double crossed me. Why not just tell Louis to come an hour later and just the three of you go to the airport? Just leave. You have the papers
Because
already.
Louis not going to agree to that plan if he knows the plane's going to leave. I don't think. I think Louis is smart enough that he would say,
Okay.
I'm supposed to show up at 11, and you're going to get something worse. I mean, Louis gets that Rick has the transit papers, and whatever he's going to do is going to involve the
Louis
transit
would.
papers.
You're saying Louis would know. Oh, there's a plane leaving at 7, so I have to. Being here at 11 means I'll be here after the plane leaves. Is that what you're saying?
They know when the planes leave. They watch.
Why
one
would
of
Louis
them.
assume this has anything to do with the plane leaving? He doesn't know that Rick has the papers.
He knows Rick has the papers. He hints at it.
He
Early
doesn't
on.
know
He definitely
for sure.
knows Rick has the
He
papers.
doesn't know
And
for
then
sure.
he does, because he even says, I put it in Sam's piano, and he's like, oh, you're not a music lover.
This is after the fact, though, isn't it? Where he tells him where he is. No, you're right. It's at the police station.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay.
It makes more sense than you're giving it credit for. Let's just say that. I mean, because if he shows up with these papers and Louis' guards are there, they're going to be like, oh, should we let them on the plane or
Yeah,
not?
and
So
as
you're
the
saying
audience,
he needs Louis there in order for
Yeah.
the plan to work.
Yeah. And he needs Laszlo out of prison, and he needs Louis for that also.
and you need the audience to not know either what's going to happen. Like, you think,
Yeah, it's like, trick ending is what it's an M. Night Shyamalan ending, kind of. The original M. Night Sixth Sense.
But half as good as that.
Sixth Sense.
Casablanca and M. Night Shyamalan joints.
Right, okay.
I want to see that movie.
But, so him remaking Casablanca, starring Mel Gibson.
As the Nazi?
Yeah, why not? That makes sense.
But the Nazis are actually werewolves by the end?
Yeah. The very end scene. So he shoots the Nazi guy, and then Louis is just like, all right, well, you killed the Nazi, it's fine. Then
He makes a choice. There's a look, and he's like, tells his men, this
round
Nazi
up the usual
douche
suspects.
douche has been shot, looks at Rick and says, round up the usual suspects.
Yeah, okay.
And he's like, we're both going to have to bail because they're going to figure it out, and we're just going to go. So they decide, we're going to get our money together and we're going to get the fuck out of here.
Okay, so Louis making a decision that he's gonna get busted too. Like
Yeah,
he's not
he's like,
coming out of this.
At this point,
Okay.
I'm going to do what's right. He sees the bottle of Vicky wine, Vichy, which is the puppet French government that's really just being controlled by the Nazis, right? And he sees this wine and he's like, literally throws it in the trash. He's done. He's done being a shill for the Nazis.
He's done being a puppet, just like Vichy.
Yeah,
So
he's
he's
like,
like-
I'm done. I'm moving on. Which is going to also emulate what the French are going to do when we go to North Africa in 1942. They're all going to say, yeah, we don't actually like the Nazis. We're going to join you and not fight you. I mean, we showed up there not sure whether
But
the
why
French would
not
fight us
just
or not.
convince Louis of that before all this?
He does not know Louis is going to make that choice. I don't think he is convinced that Louis will do the right thing. I think he's pleasantly surprised, which is why he's like,
I just thought,
Louis, I think this is the start of a beautiful friendship. He's like, we're the same. Ultimately, you were a sentimentalist below it all too.
okay.
That's
Well,
my take.
yeah, no, that makes sense. it just in the heat of the movie, you're like, so they're just gonna walk away from this? Like, he just killed this Nazi commander guy, and he's like, go round up the usual suspects. If you're the other men, which these are Louis' guys, right, that are there.
Yeah,
they are
It's horribly corrupt. It's clearly horribly
corrupt. But these
corrupt.
aren't the Nazi guys that show up, right? I wasn't clear on
No,
that. Again, it's in black
they're
and white.
Louis
It's hard
guys.
to tell which uniforms they are. So.
Black and white.
Yeah, that's the biggest problem with Casablanca, wasn't in color. So
okay,
you can't tell
so
who's
these
doing
guys
what.
show up.
I can't even tell who Rick was. It was just like his...
Now, is he black or was Sam black?
Well, yeah,
I'm
I couldn't
confused.
stamp Rick and Sam. I couldn't tell who was who.
Right, but if the
Right.
guys that come are Nazis, then it's just like, wouldn't they say, obviously one of you guys shot this dude? It's pretty clear. Like,
Right.
we're not gonna go arrest other people. Like, round up the usual suspects. Screw you. Fuck
Well,
you.
they don't know when someone was shot. Though.
He's laying there dead. Like,
And their boss told them to get the guy.
wouldn't you
Round
just?
up the
Well,
suspect.
the guy holding the gun over there. Maybe
Do you
he's the
think
one that
most
shot
cops
him.
would do that? Like, they don't... whatever. I don't think they would be very likely to protest. Like, we think you shot him, boss. We think it was Rick. They might get it, but not care. Is my take. That they're just like, all right, we'll round up the usual suspects.
If they're
I'm not sad about
Louis'
a dead
guys,
Nazi.
they're his cop.
They're his
boys,
guys
yeah,
for sure.
Then that makes more sense.
They're definitely his guys.
All right.
And then Rick and Louis bail. So I think the ending is a lot better than again. I mean, the ending is perfect, really close to perfect. It's pretty excellent.
So okay.
It's a great scene, anyway.
So you mentioned that one thing I wanted to go over, like, of all the scenes in the movie, what's your favorite? What's your like classic? What do you, when you think of this movie, you look back on it? What's the scene you remember the most?
The scene that kills me every time. It makes
Are
me.
we gonna get tears?
It makes me cry. Is when he sees Ilsa. And having watched this movie a number of times, I know what that scene's about. I don't have to wonder, man, what is going on here? I'm so lost. I actually know what's going on in that scene. So,
Are you trying to say somebody might not know what's going on? If they weren't as
I mean,
smart
if it's not 100% clear,
if you
I don't
aren't
think we should ever
Siskel
assume
Ebert,
something's
do you
happening in
know
a
what's
movie.
going on?
That's right.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So when they first exchange glances, that is a favorite moment of mine. That's a classic scene. There's many classic scenes. Too many. A lot of people say that. Classic scenes all over. Very great movie.
I know this is a cop-out, but I have trouble just deciding. I think there's a lot of great ones. I mean, I do like when he's just shit-faced, and Ilsa shows up at the bar and he's just a jerk to her, resentful. I mean, you asked whether or not Humphrey Bogart's a great actor. I don't think he is, but he came from gangster movies, and he does nasty and mean really well, and that scene really resonated. And he's just, all the bitterness came to the surface. So I like that one. I do like the ending a lot, too. I just like when they walk off into the sunset. I'm just happy for those characters, and I'm going to assume they both fought in Tunisia or somewhere, wherever they fought the Nazis, and were heroes. It's a nice thought. What about you, Eric?
So I really like the scene where I think it's the first time Rick and Victor talk. I think they're up in his office, and they're having this debate about, like, serving and the better good, greater good, or whatever. I think it's when Rick finds out that he's like with the freedom fighters or whatever like that. And then Rick and Victor hear the Nazis singing whatever the Nazi anthem or whatever it is. And then they both go out and they see the Nazis in Rick's bar, like this is his fucking bar, and these guys are singing the Nazi anthem. And they both kind of like hold up a second, like these fucking Nazi guys singing Nazi songs in here, and like. Victor just immediately goes to the band and it's like play La Marseillaise or whatever, the French national, the French national anthem, and then he looks over at Rick, and Rick gives him the nod, like, "Yep, go ahead and do it," because you know the implications there, right? It's like, it's Nazi occupied France or Morocco, and Nazis coming through, and there was even the threat, I think, when Rick talked to the Nazi guy, and they have the discussion about, like,
Yeah, he doesn't say what side he's on. He plays neutral, and
but the Nazi guy
Louis,
is like, we're coming to Britain, and then what if we come to America? And Rick's like, just avoid some parts of Brooklyn or something like that. He makes some joke about America, but it's this whole threat. It's like Nazis are coming. Like,
right, and he claims to be neutral, and then he doesn't care. He doesn't stick his neck out for anyone. But that was a very political move to allow that to happen in his bar,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and
So he
they
cares.
shut it down afterwards. Like so, then the Victor's basically orchestrates them playing the French song, and then the Nazis shut the bar down, and it just goes all. That basically is the linchpin to the whole thing falling apart. That was my favorite scene.
That's a good scene.
I like the end of that scene.
Very rousing.
The Nazis like, find a reason to shut down the bar. And Louis says, I'm shocked. I'm shocked to find out there's illegal gambling going on here. And then they say, oh, here's your winnings, sir.
Yeah. That was great.
Okay.
So so if they do remake it, which you guys don't want them to remake it, who plays Rick in your ideal scenario? Who plays Rick?
So Joaquin Phoenix seems like he'd be able to successfully convince you that he's some guy who would fight in a bunch of wars and then go to Morocco to just start a bar in the middle of nowhere, basically. And he's not very good looking, which I know you don't think Humphrey Bogart's a very good looking dude. So I think he'd be more convincing.
Well, my wife's watching with me.
Gorgeous George.
Question like why? Like what is the deal with Humphrey Bogart? Like why is he's not a good actor? He's not especially good looking. Like what's his thing? I don't. But yeah, sorry.
I think he's just a tough, grizzled dude. That's what I think he plays. Just like a confident, don't care.
He's got swagger.
Yeah, I mean it's just all swagger. So I just don't see George Clooney being nasty enough.
George Clooney that's my vote. If you remake this, it's George Clooney, 100%. He's Rick Blaine.
Would you want to go a tad younger with Leo?
Well, prime Clooney. I mean, 10 years ago Clooney maybe.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, he's pretty old now.
Now we're going for all time. So we can pick anybody
I mean,
from any era.
Yeah,
up
anybody
until these movies, he always played a gangster.
Bogart.
Humphrey.
Yeah, like he worked with the director in a movie called Angels with Dirty Faces, which is a gangster movie in 1938.
So 1941.
And he was a character actor. Yeah.
1941.
Maltese Falcon.
He puts out Maltese Falcon.
Great movie.
And High Sierra.
And he also puts out All Through the Night, The Big Shot, Across the Pacific, and then Casablanca. That's his 41, 42. He gets nominated for Best Actor for Casablanca, doesn't win, but he does win for Maltese Falcon.
Oh,
yeah.
Or no, he doesn't win for Maltese Falcon. He's only won 2 Oscars. He won for Caine Mutiny and The African Queen.
African Queen is another very good movie.
And as a contract actor, he had to do a lot of movies. Ronald Reagan was originally.
That's a rumor that.
Yeah, they knew he was going to enlist in the army, right? Or he was being drafted. So he wasn't a realistic choice, but he was one of the choices they put out there.
So who do you think a current actor could play Rick Blaine in a remake?
He would have to be a character actor.
Really? I think Leo could do it. DiCaprio could do it. You don't think he's tough
I'm
enough?
not convinced. Like, you have one of the things that it feels so authentic because it's so. Humphrey Bogart just seems like a dude that just would go into the middle of nowhere and just open up a bar and be a jerk about it and make money and not care. You gotta believe there's a certain amount of callousness.
So like a Sean Bean type? Maybe that.
Maybe. He can't, the accent would throw it off. You'd have a hard time with that.
Bobby De Niro.
De Niro or Al Pacino, I think, in his prime, Al Pacino could play Rick Blaine. You got the gangster connection, like Bogart. He's kind of always played a gangster. I think he could definitely do that. He loves ordering women around. He's great in doing that in his movies.
You told me to do the thinking for both of us.
So I did, kid.
Now let's turn this into Wee Wee.
So who would play Ilsa?
Well, so that's another problem with the movie. Any female actor could play. There's nothing special about her performance or her character.
I thought her performance was amazingly subtle. She said a lot without actually having to say things.
But it's the problem with women in Hollywood, right? This is not a very developed character. It's written by a man, I'm sure, many men.
Yeah.
There's no nuance.
Still a problem in Hollywood, by the way.
Still a problem, yes. I'm sure. I'm not saying.
So I'm not going to take a temporal sense of superiority over old movies when the same thing currently happens.
But it's gotten better. I mean, you have to admit that.
Has it? Your job is to be impressed by Tom Cruise.
There's
That's
movies
your job.
where a Arrival is a woman protagonist, and it's all about.
And there are other movies that better serve women in the role. Katharine Hepburn had a lot of really good female roles, but I digress.
You guys must not have watched Sex and the City 2 then.
No, I did not. I missed that classic. Yeah. So it was only the 7th highest grossing movie of the year that it came out, which I found kind of interesting.
That
It
is
wasn't even that big of a hit.
well, 7th.
Well, that was
For
when they
romance.
released 10 movies a year. So,
10 movies.
They released more movies in the 1940s, dude.
more movies than what? Than now?
Than now.
Baloney. There's no way that's true.
Absolutely, that's true. They churned movies out all the time. That's all they were doing, cranking out movies. There was more than just 10 movies released a year. Do you really think that's true?
Yeah, I actually think 100% that's true, that there were only 10 films a year released.
I mean, if you count random independent movies, then maybe I guess the number currently is probably higher, but studios were cranking out themselves more movies than studios crank out today. At least I'm pretty sure. I guess that can be corrected by the internet.
I found that just a little surprising, that it was...
Well, what was number 1?
I don't know what number 1 is. I'd have to look that up.
I mean, that's a moderate hit if it's the 7th highest grossing movie in any given year. It's a moderate hit.
So you're saying, like, today, the 7th highest grossing film of whatever last year is...
Is it Dunkirk?
Yeah, it's probably Dunkirk. For 2017?
Yeah.
Not very popular. Not much of a hit. Only 7th. So basically, you get
Bad.
6 movies a year that are popular. You don't even count. You have to be top 5.
Dunkirk's not even 7th. It's the 9th highest grossing movie so far this year.
Bad.
Logan is currently the 7th highest grossing film.
So Logan made $226 million.
This year, yes.
It's a moderate hit, at least.
In comparison, Casablanca made $3.7 million in its theatrical release.
Okay. It's held up well.
It cost a little over $1 million.
So it tripled its budget.
Yeah, for inflation, that's about $15 million is what it costs. And then I guess, 3 times 15, so it made about $45 million in today's. If it was released today, taken for inflation.
Yeah, that's a very moderate hit.
I mean, for what is considered maybe the greatest movie of all time, I find that a little surprising.
Well, we can get into how important it is that a movie be a massive financial success to be considered great. Maybe another time.
Well, I wanted to go into the 1-star opinion. So this is widely heralded as one of the greatest movies ever made. And the American Film Institute in '98 said it was the 2nd best movie of all time, right behind Citizen Kane. It has nearly universal acclaim. There were 2 bad reviews I could find that were listed in Rotten Tomatoes out of the many dozens, and those weren't even still in print. So I couldn't find a bad review by a professional, but I have found a few bad reviews by Amazon reviewers. And these are verified purchases. And most of the bad reviews that I looked at were just about the DVD quality, DVD and play, or anything like that. But there were a few people that wanted to judge the movie on its merits. And one was Robert D. Fry on August 4th, 2017. It's a very recent review, verified purchase on Amazon. He says, "I know that Casablanca is considered one of the great movies. Had not seen it for a long time. Thank God they make better movies today." So that took a twist ending. You didn't know where he was going with that. 1 star. And also done by Crusader on March 29th, 2015. Another Amazon verified purchase. It's a chick flick. All melodrama and gushiness. And no, Ingrid Bergman is not unusually attractive at all. So she didn't do it for him. 1 star. And being this is a podcast about old movies, I think we're going to get this complaint a lot from Marjorie G. McWethy. It's a verified purchase he made on November 10th, 2014. Her 1-star review. "I was disappointed that it was not in color." So,
Marjorie, I feel your pain. I agree with you 100%, Marjorie, that I was shocked that this movie was not in color. I was totally taken aback. As soon as it started playing, I'm like, where's the color?
Was your TV broken? That's not what you thought.
Actually, I pulled up the settings, I hit the menu button, and I went down to color, and I wanted to make sure that I had it correct, and I did, and I was just totally shocked. So, Marjorie.
Yeah. So you thought this film was like made in the 1800s?
Yeah.
And you were
Well,
like,
I thought it was like some cavemen that put this thing together. I don't know. I didn't know time existed that far back.
yeah, right.
I mean, is that BC? Is that before Christ that this movie came out? Not sure.
So yeah, you and Marjorie are soulmates. You can you should talk to her about other movies that you're shocked weren't in color. 1 star.
So they did make this movie in color. I did some research. I think it was
They
like
colorized
They
it.
colorized it in the
right.
80s.
Ted Turner bought it.
Bought a bunch of old movies and colorized
Yeah.
it.
But
Everybody hated
it cost a fortune to
Cost
colorize
a fortune, and it was like the 5th highest rated. You know, they like debuted it like the color version of Casablanca was like the 5th highest rated show that night. So like nobody cared and nobody watched it, and a lot of the reviews were that it made it look worse. I think
Sure.
most people thought it looked stupid.
I mean, a cardboard airplane probably doesn't look any better in color.
Yeah, that airplane's pretty bad.
So
Yep.
here are movies that made more in 1943 than Casablanca. For Whom the Bell Tolls, This Is the Army, The Song of Bernadette, Hitler's Children, and Star Spangled Rhythm.
All pornography.
How many Metallica songs are in? Just the one, or?
No, this is like the Black Sabbath time, like the beginning of metal, you know.
Well, I'm of the opinion that the more money a movie makes is a really good factor in how good a movie is.
So the Fast series and Furious
greatest series in the history of film.
Transformers.
Yep.
All good.
All great movies. Absolutely. I think Avatar is the greatest movie ever made because it made the most money.
I don't think it's made the most money anymore. I was pretty sure that one of the Avenger movies passed it.
Well, then that's the better movie because it made more money. That's clear.
Okay.
So people are voting with their dollars.
Yeah, you vote with your money.
Okay. All right. A lot of movies don't make a lot of money that get acclaim, like Moonlight.
So parting shots. Any other comments, messages?
It's a good movie. You should go see it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all agree it's at least a good movie. Is this old movie good, Eric?
Yes. This old movie is good. I think it's a good movie. I think it's worth watching. If you can make it through, it might take you 1 or 2 times to actually get through. But it is definitely a good movie. There's good things about it. I liked it. Yes. This is a good old movie.